I went to the Miami Touchdown Club to get an award from the AFL. So it was my turn to get up, and I got up to the podium, and about the time I'm getting ready to talk, a guy in the back of the room, "Hey, Namath, we're gonna kick your..." You know what? I said, whoa, wait a minute. You guys been talking for 2 weeks now, meaning the Colts fans and the media. So you guys been talking for 2 weeks now. I said, I'm tired of hearing it. I said, I got news for you. We're gonna win the game, I guarantee.
Joe Namath is the man the Colts have to stop. The NFL has experience that the younger league doesn't have.
When the AFL started, we were an underdog. And we're always the underdog. And it was always that we're inferior. And we got tired of hearing that the NFL was better.
Damn, we should have had 3 points that time, at least.
In those days, one thing I liked, that when people walked into the stadium, they were either for the American Football League or the National Football League. There wasn't anything in between.
Come on, Joe!
Yeah! There's a long bomb to Sauer, and he's got it.
Commissioner Rozelle said, you got to tell me something about the Jets. He said, I don't know anything about the Jets, other than Weeb Ewbank is the coach.
Right, that's a game plan anyway. That's a game plan. Okay, let's make him change. Let's get on the board, baby! Let's get on the board!
All alone is Jimmy Orr, but they went down the middle of the hill, and it's intercepted.
It was a very volatile time, and football was defined and had a course as a result of Super Bowl III.
You may be watching one of sports' greatest upsets in history.
It's just impossible to realize the tremendous impact that that game would have on football history at that time, because I was so involved with the moment, and the moment was a bitter defeat.
They have upset the Baltimore Colts and beat them handily here in Miami.
The game ended. There was such a feeling of elation, joy, tickling explosion inside. The teammates, you know, we did it! We did it! Yes! 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 Oh, it was great.
And the New York Jets are world champions.
Hi, I'm Steve Sable. Super Bowl III, in addition to being one of the most shocking upsets in sports history, was also one of those rare games that historians look to as a turning point in the growth of the NFL. Pro football status as the nation's most popular sport and the incredible drawing power of the Super Bowl stem, in many ways, from the extraordinary events of January 12, 1969. Now, this is not the first NFL film special about Super Bowl III, but it's certainly the most unique, because we're going to show you virtually every play from that Super Bowl exactly in the order in which they occurred. This idea is our response to the many fans who have written us and who want to review this game in its purest, unedited form. But even the purists need some background, and we'll begin with a look at professional football in the 1960s and the factors that led to Joe Namath's famous guarantee.
With the merger came a championship game, a chance for the league's best to square off. But the first game flopped at the gate. There were 30,000 empty seats at the LA Coliseum as Green Bay crushed Kansas City in Super Bowl I. It was a repeat the next year as the Packers rolled over Oakland. Vince Lombardi's team had made its point.
Vince Lombardi, after the game, he said the American Football League just does not measure up to the National Football League. And he said, now I've said it, there it is. And that bugged me, that bothered me. I played against all those guys, and I knew our team could beat anybody in the National Football League.
Come on and let's go, 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 Jets!
For years, the New York Jets epitomized the Mickey Mouse AFL. But that all changed with Namath's arrival in 1965. Broadway Joe, with his Playboy swagger, steered the AFL into the fast lane of American sport.
Namath's arrival in professional football in general, in New York in particular, really heralded a new age in football. He was a revolutionary figure in much the same way that Muhammad Ali was. He stood for everything that establishment people were afraid of. Individualism in a corporate team game like football, for a guy to wear white shoes and have long hair seemed like heresy.
Namath was more than a fashion statement. He was the game's most prolific passer. In only his 4th season, he led the Jets to the AFL championship. But in Super Bowl III, they faced the Baltimore Colts, a team considered even stronger than the Lombardi Packers.
And the Colts at the time were being proclaimed as maybe one of the best football teams compared with the 1940 Chicago Bears and the 1950 Cleveland Browns. It's one of the most awesome teams that ever went on football, and I think they believed it.
Led by Don Shula, the Colts looked unstoppable. They won 13 games in the regular season and lost only 1. An elbow injury sidelined Johnny Unitas. But Earl Morrall was acquired in a trade and took over at quarterback. Morrall threw 26 touchdown passes and was named Player of the Year. He rode his hot streak into Super Bowl III while Unitas sat. The Jets were 18-point underdogs, but they were not odd. Matt Snell had the power to run through any defense. Namath was a great deep passer, and with flanker Don Maynard, the Jets could strike like lightning. They also had Weeb Ewbank, who won 2 championships as coach in Baltimore a decade earlier.
He knew our personnel as well as anybody did, because all the players that were with us at that time had played for Weeb in 1962.
It was an unknown factor, but I thought it was a plus that he might be able to find whatever chinks there were in their armor. He broke the Colts down at what was perceived to be their strength, with Snell running off to the left and with Namath throwing controlled passes in front of their secondary.
The Jets were quietly confident until Namath spoke out.
We're going to win the game, I guarantee it.
Well, when he got back to the hotel that night, he called me. He said, you know, I said something and I think it's going to be in all the news, on the papers, TV, radio, and everything. So what the heck did you say? He said, well, I just told him, I guaranteed him that we were going to win. I said, man, you didn't do that, did you? He said, yes, I did. I did that. And sure as heck, the next day on TV and all the front page everywhere, Namath guarantees a win. He said, well, we're going to win, aren't we? I said, yeah, you're right, we're going to win, but you shouldn't have said that.
I called him right away. I said, Joe, I asked you not to do this. He just said that's the way I felt. He says, it's your fault. You got us believing it.
And I really believed we were going to win the game. We're riding to practice. Babe Pirelli, Bill Mathis, big boy Pete Lammons, our tight end, and myself, after a film session one morning, we're riding out to practice, and big boy Pete chuckled. He said, hey, y'all, we don't stop looking at those films, we're going to get overconfident. And we all laughed, giggle, giggle, chuckle, chuckle. But there was that underlying confidence we all had, from our tight end to Vito to Mathis. You know, we felt confident, pretty darn confident, that we were going to win the game.
And he had nothing to lose when he shot his mouth off and said, hey, we're number 1, we're going to beat them. I predict we're going to win. And that, you know, irked all of us off a little bit, because he had a pretty cocky attitude, and we were a veteran ball club at that time, and there was a real intensity there.
Namath's guarantee made the Super Bowl theater for the masses. A game that couldn't sell out 2 years earlier suddenly was the hottest ticket in sports. Passions were aroused. Millions took sides. It was all people could talk about. But on Sunday, the talking stopped and the real drama began.
The city of Miami hosts for this Super Bowl game, and a wonderful host it's been. The temperature right now is 72 degrees. The wind's going to be a factor here. It's gusty, 15 miles per hour, and we have a 20% chance of rain. It could have sold 150,000 tickets to this game. Tickets have never been more scarce here in Miami, and this is Super Bowl III. There's Don Shula. Well, you've all heard and read all kinds of pregame dope during the week. Joe Namath, number 12, has been the one big sidelight. He's come down here and he says the Jets are going to win. In fact, he doesn't even predict it. He says, I guarantee a Jet victory. Now, is this giving Baltimore even more of an incentive? Will it backfire on Namath and the Jets? We'll find out. Namath has been on the spot before. Now here's the opening kickoff. New York receiving on your right. It's a high kick. It's tumbling to Christie. He's out to the 10, to the 15, over the 20, the 22-yard line. Taken down by Jerry Logan, who makes the tackle for the Colts. So it's New York's ball now. First down on their own 22. Namath, number 12, will be the quarterback. Boozer, 32, is the left half. Snell, 41, the fullback. Maynard's the flanker, number 13. Sauer will be the split end. Pete Lammons the tight end. Now don't pay any attention to what Baltimore does. Hey, there's a shift for the Jets. I have not seen them do that during the regular season. It's to Snell. He's over his 25 to the 26-yard line. He's hit there by Ordell Brazy, number 81, the defensive right end.
The very first play of the game, Coach Eubank had us come out in a formation, normal, and then a shift. The reason for this, the main thing was to give Coach Shula and their defense something to think about. We didn't put in any special plays at all. Not one single running play, not one single passing play.
And Snell again.
The Jets would never again shift into any odd formations, and the play calling on their opening drive foreshadowed a deceptively simple game plan.
That moves the Jets back to their 31, where it's second down and 13. We have no score. We have 12:55 left to play here in the first period. All right, Namath fading for his first pass of the game. Out to Snell. Snell up to his own 40-yard line. Look for the Jets today, I think, to run those backs out of the backfield against the Baltimore zone. Third down, 4 to go. The Jets on their own 40. Sauer split left, Maynard to the right. Boozer and Snell, the setbacks. The handoff is to Snell, and Baltimore smells that one out. Fred Miller, number 76, the defensive right tackle, stops Snell. So now we have a punt formation. Tim Brown is going to go back for the Colts. He's the second-string punt returner. Curly Johnson tied for second in the AFL in punting, an average of 43.8. He can give it a ride. He booms it out to the near side. Brown takes it on his 18, 20, 25, and up to the 27. Jim Richards and John Nieder down to make the tackle for the Jets. So a first down now as we watch Baltimore go to the attack for the first time. Earl Morrall's a quarterback, number 15. Matty, the left half, 41. Hills, number 45, the fullback. Willie Richard, 87, the flanker. Mackey's the tight end, 88. And Jimmy Orr, the split end, number 28. Morrow going to the air on first down, and right away he's going to dump it off. It's to Mackey. The big tight end is almost impossible to bring down with one man. He sheds tacklers like flies.
On their first possession, Baltimore, it seemed, was not only oblivious to the pre-game controversy, they appeared to be fired up by Namath's guarantee.
If anything, it should have helped us if we were complacent, because he said that he was going to guarantee a win. So, you know, our players, I was hoping that they would certainly use that to help them if there was any complacency or overconfidence on our part, that would certainly, you know, tear that apart.
Let's look at that again. That's the fullback, Jerry Hill. Biggs missed him, and Hudson, the strong safety, had to make the stop. So now the ball's on the New York Jet 37. It's a gain of 7, and Baltimore looks overpowering on offense. The handoff is to Tom Matty, and he stopped there on the 36. Third down and 2 to go for the Colts. No score. Here's Jerry Hill again. He played 6-man football in high school at Torrington, Wyoming, and he's got a first down. Baltimore has the ball now. The New York Jet 31, 1st and 10. Morrow to Jerry Hill. He's hit behind the line of scrimmage. Jerry Philbin shot across the line and dumped him for a 3-yard loss. So that makes it now 2nd down, 13 to go. And each team has passed only once in this game. All right, Mitchell's at tight end now. Hill's gone out. That leaves Matty as the lone setback. Morrow ready to throw. And it is incomplete. Pass was intended for Jimmy Orr on the far side, was covered by Randy Beverland, and we have a 3rd down and 13 to go for the Colts. Same setup. Matty the lone setback. Morrow throws the same pattern and completes it this time to the 19-yard line. That was Tom Mitchell, the tight end, who was an Oakland Raider castoff. The Raiders released him. He was picked up by the Baltimore Colts.
In the first quarter, the Colts appeared to be on their way to the kind of victory the experts had predicted. But what happened during the final stages of their opening drive would personify the kind of day they were in for against the Jets.
Their defense was a very good defense. They gave, but they didn't get anything big. They'd let you move down the field and then they tighten you up when you got into that red zone, and did a good job of doing that against us. Every time we got down inside there, something would happen. The ball would bounce off somebody, and the bounces went the wrong way. But don't take any credit away from the Jets. They did a great job.
Rushed again, miraculously gets out of that, and is spun down on the 18-yard line of the Jets. Let's take a look at that again. Morrow's not supposed to be much of a scrambler, but he really shook himself loose to avoid a 6 or 7 yard loss. Now Baltimore is going to bring the field goal team in. It'll be Lou Michaels, a left-footed kicker. He's hit 18 out of 28 this year. The kick is up, and it is no good, off to the right. And the Colts, who drove from their 27, were stopped on the Jets' 18 and failed to score. It is still 0-0 here in Miami.
The Jets' subsequent possession would not produce many yards. In fact, they didn't move the ball out of Colts territory. But their second offensive drive was one of the game's first turning points.
Looks, and he's to the tight end, Pete Lammons. And Lammons is down on the 22. Namath again, looking, throws to Billy Mathis, and Mathis is dumped on the Jet 35. Namath had good protection. He'll need it today. Fading, looking, going deep to Maynard. Maynard down the far sideline, just out of his reach. And
For a couple of reasons, that was a big play. Number one, Baltimore knew that Maynard was our lightning strike. They knew that they had to put more than one person on him. That was a big play in that we showed the Colts we could get behind them and that they still had to respect that. But that enabled us to go to George Sauer more often. We went to Sauer and we went to Sauer and we went to Sauer because the Colts respected Maynard's lightning.
And there it is out to Sauer on the 41-yard line. He was hit by Lenny Lyles.
Colts cornerback Lenny Lyles had been weakened by tonsillitis, and the Jets knew it. Although they faltered on this drive, a strategy was now in place. George Sauer would be Namath's primary target, and Don Maynard a dangerous decoy.
There never was a horse that couldn't be rode.
When the Jets got the ball back, they pursued the strategy that would make George Sauer the receiving star of Super Bowl III. But before he became a hero, Sauer almost turned into a goat.
All right, let's take a look at this first turnover. On the ball will be number 55, Ron Porter. The Jets had a first down as they came out from their 3-yard line, but Sauer couldn't hold on to it. So the Colts pick up a big break here in the first period.
Who recovered it? I did. Man, trying to pick it up. Couldn't stop. Straight away all the time. Huh? I just got to really over your feet. Right, you're looking.
I could see it. I just couldn't get turned around to pick it up and run with it. Only had 5 yards to go.
Slot left for the Colts. Morrow to Hill. He's hit by number 81, Jerry Philbin. You're going to be impressed by this front four of the Jets. They're very quick. There's the gun. That's the end of the first quarter of the 1969 Super Bowl game with a score: Baltimore 0 and New York 0. The Orange Bowl, Miami, a scoreless first quarter. Baltimore has the ball on the Jets' 13 with 2nd and 9. Sauer's fumble gave Baltimore their first big break. Earl Morrow pitches out to Tom Matte. Matte goes down to the 6-yard line. Well, they call him the garbage man, and you can see why. He seems to pick up 4, 5, 6 yards at a time, and it doesn't look like he's doing it. But he can smell that goal line. Now it's 3rd down and 3 to go. The Colts on the Jets' 6-yard line. Mitchell, the tight end, is in now. 2 tight ends. Orr's gone out. There's the throw, and it is intercepted. The Jets intercept Randy Beverly. The ball was right in the hands of Tom Mitchell, popped out, and it's a touchback, and the Jets take over.
The Jets' first break of the game was a heads-up play by Al Atkinson. With his outstretched hand, the middle linebacker managed to deflect Earl Morrow's pass and upset Tom Mitchell's well-run timing pattern. New York then capitalized on the turnover by launching their most perfectly executed drive.
But out to Jets ball, first down.
It was a wonderful drive, and mostly to our left side. And that old rule, hey, if it's working, keep going to it. You know, make them stop us. So, yeah, we worked the left side, and we wore it out as much as we could. The strong side for us was our left, and we felt like our left side of the offense could match up on their right side of the defense, and that's where we wore it out. They can't, if they don't stop, you just keep on.
Here's a draw to Snell, stays in bounds.
The Jets also capitalized on one of their other hidden strengths, the ability to handle a strong blitz.
And the blitz is on. Quick pitch out to Billy Mathis. He's over the 50.
We always went into games with Joe that we hoped they did blitz. They had won in the NFL by blitzing, and we had automatics on that. And they couldn't understand why every time they came with us, we were down there in the same spot where he just left.
The Jets also continued to work on Lenny Lyles.
And it's complete right on line to George Sauer.
Sauer kept getting opportunities on one-on-one situation with Lenny Lyles because of Maynard having to be double-teamed on the other side.
Oh, Lyles gambled and nearly got that one. Rick Volk back in the game made the tackle, but it's first down for New York on the Baltimore 23. On the replay, you see Sauer. Let's check Namath's passing figures. He's 8 out of 12. 2 of his passes have been dropped. Total of 67 yards. Jets driving deep into Baltimore territory. The give now is to Emerson Boozer, and he stopped at the Baltimore 21. Don Shinnick, the veteran linebacker, made the stop. Namath now on a swing pass out to Snell. Snell's at the 15, down to the 10, and he stopped there at the 10-yard line. First and goal to go. And you watch Baltimore put a heavy blitz on Namath, and he's been reading those blitzes. Been dumping the ball out to his back, flaring to the sides. What a game Snell has had. Running left, running right, taking the short passes, swing passes.
The Jets ate up the yards and the clock. And it was during this 5-minute span of the second quarter that the perceived dominance of the NFL first showed signs of crumbling.
The Jets inside the 10-yard line. They hand off to Snell. He may go, and he's in there. Snell scores.
And that old rule, hey, if it's working, keep going to it. You know, make them stop us.
80 yards, 11 plays. The drive engineered by Namath. And now the try for point. Pirelli will hold. Turner will try the kick. It's up, and it is good. Well, the Jets lead 7-0. They were giving odds the Jets wouldn't score on the Colts, who shut out 4 teams in the NFL this year. The Jets just drove 80 yards. Matt Snell scoring a touchdown. He's now picked up 53 yards. And it's
no use running wide now. We were beating them with the first half.
That's right. That's their game plan anyway. That's their game plan.
Okay, let's make them change.
Okay, fine.
The second quarter action suddenly began to heat up. And for a brief time, Super Bowl III resembled a shootout.
Tom Matte cutting back. Matte running beautifully now. Gets it into New York territory. And Tom Matte picks up 30 yards on the play.
But Baltimore failed to convert Tom Matte's 30-yard gain as Lou Michaels missed his second field goal attempt of the game. Although the Jets' subsequent drive into Colts territory also failed to produce points, their ability to handle Baltimore's blitz began to worry the Colts.
Namath did an exceptional job. When we did come with a blitz, other quarterbacks weren't able to handle it, but Namath, with his quick release, was able to get rid of the ball. Their receivers made quick adjustments against our defensive backs, and they came up with big plays. Instead of us creating havoc with the blitz, they beat the blitz and made big plays that helped them win the football game.
This will be a 41-yard field goal attempt. The Jets up and no good. It sailed wide left, and the score remains.
Damn, we should have had 3 points that time, at least.
With 4 minutes left in the half, the torrid pace of play was now matched by the temper of the players. The longest gain of the day set off the long, simmering hostility that existed between the two rival leagues.
He's breaking it. He could be caught from behind. Billy Baird chasing him. And Baird finally brings him down. And that's Matte's longest run of the season. And some unhappiness now. Matte and Johnny Sample going at it. Things are getting
a 58-yard run. I'd fallen down and rolled over on my stomach, and he happened to be just following up and accidentally stepped on my crotch. And needless to say, that hurt a little bit. And absolutely intentional.
He wanted to fight. He was really upset. I really wasn't that mad. He should have been happy he had a 50-yard run. Till this day, I think he's still a little upset. I've been to a couple of fairs where he was in attendance, and he wasn't very pleasant.
Well, I turn around to go after him, and the official is right there. And this came out later on. He came up to me. I was broadcasting for one of the games, and he says, "Tom," he says, "do you know the Super Bowl?" He said, "You knocked out 4 of my teeth." And I said, "I did what?" He says, "Well, when you went after Sample," he says, "I jumped in between you, and your face mask caught me in the mouth, and you knocked out 4 of my teeth."
Personally, I like Tommy. He's a competitor. He works very hard. He doesn't step back from anyone, and that type of football player I respect.
But Sample and I don't even talk about the guy, you know.
Although they gained 58 yards on Matte's run, the Colts appeared to lose their composure. In the end, Johnny Sample would have the final say on another frustrating Colt possession.
Number 60, the other linebacker. 2nd and 9, Baltimore on the Jet 15. 3 minutes to go in the half. Namath watching from the sidelines. Earl Morrow. Looking. It's intercepted by Johnny Sample. That's the second New York interception. And he gets up and hands the ball gloating over to Willie.
And the thing that they did all the time, they would have the back circle out of the backfield on a circle pattern, and I knew he was coming in, and I just jumped the pattern. I jumped inside in the ball, and sure in the heck, the ball was right there, and I intercepted it. As far as throwing the football was concerned, I told all the defensive back he's not going to throw the ball deep because he doesn't have that kind of arm. And even if he does try to throw it deep, it's going to be a hump in the ball. It won't be on a line, and you'll have a chance to react and go and catch the football. And that's the advantage we had on him. We knew what he could do and what he could not do.
Baltimore continued to miss key opportunities to score. Following Sample's interception, they had forced the Jets to punt from their own end zone. On the play, Alex Hawkins had come within inches of a blocked punt that would have netted a safety or maybe even a touchdown. Baltimore's all-out effort to block the punt gave their return man, Tim Brown, little opportunity for a run back.
If I could have kept Billy in, but there was another guy. We were coming. We were coming. I saw it, but there was another guy right with you, behind you. You didn't see. I didn't want to go for a 10-yard loss because I wanted to keep it in field goal position. We'll get the next one.
Although Baltimore was in field goal range, they wanted more. What happened next remains the most controversial play in Super Bowl III.
The clock moving now, 25 seconds to go in the half. The Jets ahead, 7-0. There's a handoff to Matty. Matty back to Morrill on the flea flicker. Jimmy Orr's wide open in the end zone, but they throw down the middle. It's intercepted by Jim Hudson. They had a sure touchdown if they'd have got the ball to Jimmy Orr. Nobody within 15 yards of him. And the Jets come up with their third interception in the first half. Here it is.
When I sent the play in, I was hoping that we were able to get a score that would give us some momentum going into the second half of the ball game. And as the play unfolded, it worked beautifully. They handed off to Matty. Matty then lateral back to Earl Morrill. Earl Morrill standing there. I'm looking down the field. Jimmy Orr is wide open in the end zone with his hands up like this, waving, waiting for the ball.
Sure as the devil. Here he is. He's standing back there by himself, waving his arm, Jimmy Orr. Jimmy Orr was 20 yards behind everybody. You look at the film, it makes you sick. Even now when I look at it, it makes me sick to see how wide open he was.
I saw Jimmy Orr standing way down there. And I looked back and I said, oh my goodness, I didn't say, oh my goodness, but I felt sick very quickly. And then I saw the ball released, and I felt very good that the ball was not going in Orr's direction.
This play just happened just before halftime. And the band was taking the field. They were in the end zone, down in the far end zone where the play was going into. I threw the ball a little high to Earl. He had to adjust on the ball to get it. And then when he looked downfield, Jimmy Orr is standing in the end zone going like this. Our band had blue and white uniforms on too. Earl never saw Jimmy in the end zone. And I think was really the turning point.
You can look at that any way you want. Sure, hey, they score that touchdown. They go in with the momentum. We come out the second half. We don't have a chance. Baltimore ends up scoring 5 times, and we get minus yardage. Is that what you want to hear? I don't believe that's going to happen. If they score that touchdown, we go back to work and we start at ground zero. And some people would say, hey, that's all right. Who would have ever expected an AFL team to be tied at halftime?
Well, you never know about sports. The New York Jets, look at Morrill. He's disgusted. New York's leading 7-0 at the half. They were 20-point underdogs before this game, and will continue from the 1969 Super Bowl game right after this. Well, that flea flicker play, I'll never forget it. That was a sure Baltimore touchdown that they missed. Now the half's over. The Jets are leading 7-0. The bands are on the field, and Dero Goddess, my partner, and I are in the back of our booth having a cup of coffee. And I said to Al, who all along thought the Jets would win, I said, Al, hey, we really got something here. I told you, he says, the Jets are going to win this game. I said, you really think so? He says, I really do. He says, they're outplaying the Colts. Plus, the Colts aren't playing their best. So we went into that second half, 7-0 Jets, and we had some real drama on our hands here. I've broadcast sports for 50 years, and I've been lucky. I've done World Series, NCAA tournaments, 18 or 20 of them, 8 Super Bowls, a lot of Rose Bowls, Orange Bowls, Olympics, 8 Olympics. But as I look back, my most memorable game was Super Bowl III because of its importance, its historical importance, and one of the biggest upsets of all times in sports. That Super Bowl III will always hang in my mind as not the greatest game I ever called, but the best and most memorable event of my broadcasting career.
When we return, the second half of Super Bowl III.
Fumble, and it's a New York recovery.
At halftime, it was just upsetting because we knew that we had a lot of opportunities, and yet it didn't show on the scoreboard. And any time that you go through those situations, you hope that it doesn't come back to haunt you. In coaching, you always want to stress that you've got to take advantage of the opportunities that you have to put points up there, and we didn't in that first half.
They saw a little sense of urgency, I think. They sensed that they had to do something right now, because you could tell it walking off the field at halftime, looking in their faces, that those guys say, well, we were 18, 19, 21 points favored, and now we haven't scored a point. What's going on out here? What are we doing?
New York will kick off. 7-0 Jets, a big surprise here in Miami. Aaron White, the Jets. Curly Johnson kicks it off. And it's down to Brown on the goal line. Brown's out to the 5 to 15. and he goes down on his own 25-yard line, hit there by Bill Rademacher and also Mark Smolinski. Well, here's the stats in the first half. The Jets hold the edge in first downs 10-6. Baltimore rushing 92-70. The Jets hold the edge in passing. Namath has hit 10 out of 16. Morrill 5 out of 15. The Jets intercepted 3 of Morrill's passes. Now let's see what Baltimore does. Ball is handed off to Tom Matte. And Matte is fumbled, and it's a New York recovery. Ralph Baker on the ball. The hit by Verlin Biggs.
During the 1968 season, Baltimore had been flawless in their execution. Their sudden descent into being an error-prone team was one of Super Bowl III's most puzzling developments.
That's what the odds makers took a look at. They said, hey, here's a team that's full of veterans. They're not going to make the mistakes. On that day, we made a lot of mistakes. We got the ball on the first drive, and I had a big, long run, and damned if I didn't fumble.
Jets are leading 7-0 early in the third quarter. They're on the Baltimore 33. It's to Boozer. Boozer at the 30 and down to the 25-yard line. A run of 8. Don Shinnick and Dennis Gaubat on the tackle. So it's now second down, 2 to go. And New York is threatening again. Matt Snell bucking off the right side of his line. Goes to the Baltimore 22 where Bubba Smith, the big left end, brought him down. It's another New York Jet first down. The Jets now have 11 first downs, Baltimore 6. Cross buck to Boozer. Boozer spinning, trying to slash his way. Can't quite make it. Met by Mike Curtis. There's Johnny Unitas warming up. He's had a muscle tear in his right elbow all year. He's coming along slowly. He may be in here before this one's over. The Colts have not scored today. Second down, 7. The Jets on the Baltimore 19. Namath the throw again. Out to the right. It's to Snell. And Snell has been outstanding today. Running, pass protecting as a blocker. Catching the ball on swing passes. Unitas pacing that sideline. One of the all-time greats.
The Jets stayed with a simple offensive scheme. But by the third quarter, they were mixing things up and not dependent on attacking Baltimore's left side.
He should have been that end zone. Should have cut in. He should have been that end zone, shouldn't he? Did he strip? It isn't good footing down there. It is not good footing down. I'd come back with the same thing.
We moved the ball around a little bit because Baltimore would take away one thing, we'd go to the next. You know, you're not going to just keep being successful against any of Don Shula's teams, that Colt team certainly.
Baltimore called one of the greatest defensive teams of all.
We had Mathis, we had Boozer, we had Snell and Lamons, and we used them all year long, and they saved us all year long or won for us, you know, and moving the ball around a little bit was basically dictated by what Baltimore's defense was doing.
Although Bubba Smith did sack Namath for a 9-yard loss, on the following play, Baltimore let a golden opportunity to stop the Jets slip through their hands.
Here's Namath.
Look at that time.
Oh, it's nearly picked off by Jerry Logan, who cut in front of Pete Lamons, and Logan could have gone all the way. The Colts have had trouble hanging on to the ball today. Several drop passes. Logan drops what could be a possible touchdown.
They had a star, not took mine.
Yeah, I know.
But if I could have seen Brady, but see, that's...
Yeah, well, see what I should have done. I should have went in and then back to the outside.
As I had it on last time. I tried to throw the ball away. I had a 60-yard rip on.
But they didn't check it.
They checked it off.
Did you check it though?
Yeah, I checked the line. I had something else on.
Here's a 32-yard field goal attempt by Jim Turner. Babe Pirelli holding. Turner missed one earlier. Once again, we still have that tricky crosswind. The kick is up, and it is good.
I would have loved to have had a touchdown there and made it 14-0, but 10-0, that meant a whole lot to us because it meant that they had to get on the board twice.
Jets surprisingly in the lead, 10-0. Curly Johnson kicking off. And it comes to Brown. He's out to the 10 and to the 15-yard line where he's taken down by Bill Rademacher and Mike D'Amato. Johnny Unitas still warming up on the sideline, but Earl Morrall is still in there quarterback. Now he puts Matty in the slot. Fading, looking deep, trying to go to Mackey, and it is incomplete over his head.
Although they had no points, Baltimore had been able to move the chains. Not anymore. What sealed Earl Morrall's fate was New York's finest and most physical defensive series of the game.
Oh, looks that defense over. Now dumps it off to Jerry Hill. Larry Grantham made a good hit on him on the open field. Drops him at the 26-yard line. And Grantham.
Buddy Ryan was the one that the defensive players respected more than anybody else. Buddy Ryan really did a great job with our football team. And he was the one that was woofing all week about, these guys can't beat you. They just can't beat you. Just go out and hit everybody that moves that has a different color jersey.
Third down, 11 to go. The Colts are trailing 10-0. Morrow running, and Hudson comes up and hammers him down. Hudson, the former Oklahoma All-American who fractured his ankle 3 years ago, is one of the hardest tackling safety men in the league on this replay. And watch Hudson hit him. Jet sidelines alive. They smell it. They're ahead 10-0.
No penalties. Let's get a touchdown up there.
Punt formation. David Lee will do the punting. Unitas looking on. You might see him in there the next time Baltimore gets the ball. Drives a nice spiral. Billy Barrett on his 33. Loses a couple of yards. He's hit down on his 31. Covering the kick was number 64, Sidney Williams. Unitas now has his helmet on. All right, here's Namath again.
Namath continued to pick apart the Colts. Perhaps the most revealing aspect of Super Bowl III was Namath's ability to adjust to any changes in Baltimore's defense.
And that one is to George Sauer. He's had a field day today, Sauer, especially going down, running the curls back.
Most of the plays were called at the line of scrimmage. Coach Eubank and Cleve Rush, our offensive coordinator, and Pirelli and I had figured fairly well what we'd like to do. And boy, wouldn't it be nice to be able to get a chance to look at the defense, then decide what to do. Well, we were out of the huddle quickly. We got out quickly. That gave us time up at the line. And if you look at these films, you'll see us sitting there, which may seem like forever, but we had left the huddle awful early because we wanted to get up there and see what they might show.
There's a pump fake by Namath, and he fires deep, going down the sideline. It's incomplete. Maynard, the intended receiver, Jerry Logan, bumping him there, but no flag. And here's Namath again. Gives it off to Emerson Boozer. Boozer, the left halfback. Picks up a few yards. The Jets on their own 47. They're ahead in this game, 10-0. It's the third period. Super Bowl III in Miami, Florida. Namath again looking. Crossing pattern to the tight end, Pete Lammons. And Lammons is down on the Baltimore 38-yard line. Another New York Jet first down. Namath now is at 14 out of 22. Here it is on a quickie out to Maynard, and he can't hold on to it. Looked rough, but he took him down there. No flag. So it's second down 10 for the Jets. In Baltimore territory, the clock moving. The Jets are leading 10-0. Namath down the middle, and he's got it to Matt Snell. Complete, and Namath is picking this vaunted Baltimore secondary to pieces right now. The handoff is to Bill Mathis. The draw play smelled out by Baltimore's Billy Ray Smith, number 74, and Don Shinnick. Second down.
The Jets were in complete control. By then it seemed that only an injury to Namath could slow them down. Oddly enough, that's what nearly happened.
There's Namath fading again. Buying time and going deep to the end zone to Maynard. It is no good. He stepped over the end line, out of bounds. So Namath seems to be something wrong with his hand. Namath injured right now. What a turning point this could be.
I had a thumb that was hurt, that felt bad and hurt like crazy whenever something happened to it. But I did have to leave the game because of my hand and because of my thumb. It wasn't anything serious, just that it was so awful, painful. At the time, I could not function. But I wasn't hurt seriously. I mean, I had a bad hand.
Now Babe Pirelli, a 15-year veteran, throws quick, but it's incomplete. A quick slant to George Sauer. 4th and 9, and we'll see the field goal team come in again for the Jets. And the big question right now is Namath. He's played a spectacular game here. He's run his offense beautifully. He's read the blitzes today. But right now his right hand is giving him problems. Babe Pirelli will hold now on the 30-yard line of Baltimore. Jim Turner will try the field goal. The kick is up, and it is good. Jim Turner, who kicked more field goals than any player in one season in pro history, boots his second of the game. Timeout. Action will continue here at the Super Bowl. The score, the Jets 13, Baltimore nothing. Curly Johnson to kick off for the Jets late in the 3rd quarter. He lost it high, and it hits the upright for an automatic touchback. The Baltimore's ball, first down on their 20. And Johnny Unitas, number 9.
When Johnny came out on the field, the first thing was a little silly feeling right here in your midsection, and then reminding yourself his arm's hurt, and then saying, well, you know, our defense will do the job, you know. But yeah, you're concerned. Anytime Unitas steps on the field, you're concerned for your defense.
Johnny Unitas, one of the all-time great quarterbacks.
Magnitude of a John Unitas, the charisma that he has, even that his arm was sore. I said to myself, they've got to put him in now. They've got to let him play, because if we score another touchdown, they're dead. I told the guy, I said, don't let it bother you. Don't worry about it. Just keep playing the same way. Because John, and after the first couple of passes that he threw, we knew then that it wasn't the John Unitas of old.
That ball wobbles out there, and it's incomplete. That muscle tear in the right elbow still must be bothering Johnny.
In all likelihood, Johnny Unitas was still injured, but Joe Namath was not. The Jet quarterback was back for the next series. This time he went for the jugular, directing all his passes in the direction of George Sauer and Lenny Lyles.
And a quick toss to Sauer. Ball loose, but I believe the whistle had already blown, and it'll still be the Jets' ball. Namath back, the Jets leading now 13-0. He's going to go deep, and it is down to Sauer. He's got it. He had the inside step on Larry Lyles again.
Lenny Lyles was creeping up on George a little bit, and George needed to get deep and knew he could get deep because of Lyles getting a little more aggressive. That's what set that thing up.
Sauer's now caught 8 passes in this game for 133 yards. And what a job this interior line, tackle to tackle, is doing for Namath. He's been touched only twice. Everybody thought he'd get killed in this game, but he's the one that's done the killing of Baltimore. Here goes Snell again, this time going right for once and roaring to the 6-yard line of Baltimore. So we're nearing the end of the 3rd period, and the 3rd quarter has been all the Jets. They've completely outplayed Baltimore. So there's the end of the 3rd quarter in Miami. The 1969 Super Bowl game with a score, the New York Jets 13, the Baltimore Colts nothing. Now Baltimore with a near 9-man front.
The 4th quarter began with New York on the threshold of another score. But for one of the few times all day, Baltimore's defense came up big. They denied the Jets a touchdown that would have all but ended Super Bowl III.
Bubba came around
Get to you.
quick.
I heard Dave yelled, but I couldn't do nothing about it.
What
Yeah.
And Jim Turner, who's already kicked 2 field goals in the game, will have a short one, but from an angle on the near side. A little tougher when you're closer to that goal post. Pirelli will spot it on the 9. There's your kick, and it is good. And Jim Turner kicks his 3rd field goal of the game, and the Jets now lead 16-0. 13:26 to play. Curly Johnson kicking off. He booms it deep. Preston Pearson fumbling it around. Now he's going to run it out. He gets to the 5, finds a crease, and turns what looked like a disaster into a 32-yard kickoff return. Unitas to Mackey.
I think there was a sort of a look inside your heart and say, hey, can we rise to the occasion? And I think that in the past we'd always been able to do that. There was never a time in my life that I played with the Colts that I didn't think that we could come back even if we were 14 points down. We probably had the best 2-minute offense in the country.
Matty running beautifully now. Gets it into New York territory at the Jets' 37-yard line. And there goes Jerry Hill. Unitas is moving.
Once we got up 16-0, our defense was trying to consume the clock as much as possible and not give up the big gainer.
Jimmy Orr's flank to the left, Richardson to the right. Matty's in the slot. Unitas going down the middle. It is intercepted again. Randy Beverly downs it. And that's the 4th interception by the Jets in the game. Let's take a look at it again. It was right on him. Made a good cut, perfect timing. And the Jets secondary has played brilliantly today. And we may be sitting in on one of sports' greatest upsets.
We went into a mode of using up the clock. I mean, we're going to try and advance the ball, taking as little chances as possible, but keeping the clock going. But the main thing is using up the clock and advancing the ball. And I just keep going back to those 2 simple words. Coach Eubank told us, you know, poise and execution, fellas. Poise and execution. And that's what our guys did.
Matt Snell in that second effort turns him loose.
What's the great trivia question of Super Bowl III? How many passes did Namath throw in the 4th quarter?
I wouldn't be surprised if it was 0. Was it really?
That's right.
It's the first time I've been told that, I promise you.
Clock is moving. Long huddles by the Jets. Long signal count. Don Shula, desperate now, looking up at the clock. Shula said if we lose this game, everything we've done this year is out the window. We've had 15 victories, 1 NFL championship, and the whole season will be ruined if we get beat by these AFL.
Baltimore did manage to stop the Jets on a crucial 3rd and 1.
Mathis is stopped at the 35 by Lou Michaels, number 79.
Yeah. Hell, I'm sorry. We should have some points up on the board that time, please. Huh? I can't hear you. Wait a minute.
Right here, a 42-yard field goal attempt by Jim Turner. He's already kicked 3 in the game. Babe Pirelli holding. And the kick is no good. It was to the left. It faded. So action will continue here at the Super Bowl in Miami with a score of the New York Jets 16, the Baltimore Colts nothing.
Anyone who was a pro football fan in 1969 can remember exactly where they were and exactly what they were doing during Super Bowl III. I know I was shooting a camera on the Colts sideline, an area that had gotten very quiet during the 4th quarter. But Jim Turner's missed field goal did stir some life into the Colts, and they managed to give even Joe Namath a few moments of anxiety. And when we return, we'll review the final 6.5 minutes of Super Bowl III and conclude with a look at this game's enduring influence.
There was 6 minutes and 34 seconds remaining in Super Bowl III. The Colts needed a quick score, and although Johnny Unitas continued to struggle, his very presence offered Baltimore a glimmer of hope.
So now it's 4th down, 10 to go. Baltimore at their own 20. Unitas to Mackey. And Mackey has it for the first down to keep the Colts alive.
Among the many questions that surfaced that day was whether the decision to bring in Unitas came too late.
The first half, a lot of the things that happened in the first half were not Earl Morrall's fault. I mean, he had threw some passes that were excellent passes that we didn't capitalize on. So I wanted to give Earl at least a series in the third quarter, and they held the ball for such a long period of time that when John finally got in there, and he did move us down for a touchdown late in the ball game, then later on there are those second guesses, and they're legit.
2nd and 10, the Colts on the 16. There's a great catch by Jimmy Orr, and a marker goes down. They're going to call that on Al Atkinson. Baltimore now on the Jet 2-yard line. 1st and goal to go. 4 minutes, 14 seconds to play. The Jets ahead 16-0. They're stopped short. A big pile up. Matty is
Once again, the Jets' defense was bending but not breaking. The Colts would avoid a shutout, but the Jets' resistance at the goal line had cost Baltimore valuable time on the clock.
3rd down, a half-yard to go for a Baltimore touchdown. Jerry Hill is in the end zone, and Baltimore finally gets on the scoreboard with 3:19 to play. They were shut out. And when you shut the Colts out with that high-powered offense, you've done something. But Jerry Hill puts them on the board. And they're going to try it. Lining up for the onside kick. Here's the squibber. And it looks like the Colts have it. Tom Mitchell fell on the ball. And it'll be Baltimore's ball, trailing.
Now they recover the onside kick. Boy, that got me very angry. And I think it got us all a little bit concerned, more than we needed to be concerned. We would have loved to have the luxury of having the ball at that point and then milking the clock. You know, anything worthwhile, you know, it doesn't come easy. And I guess that was a good example.
As long as Unitas is in there, this game isn't over yet. To the sidelines, and they're calling it.
With that much time left, say they score in a minute. Say they score a touchdown in a minute. Now it's 16-14. It definitely changes the mentality of the players in the fray. I mean, your mind is going to function a little differently. It's a different situation. And our defense especially then was not going to give up the big gainer as far as allowing people to get behind them. You know, our defense held.
The Colts, another incomplete pass. So now brings up 4th and 5. This is the Colts' last chance, trailing 16-7, the closing minutes of this game. Unitas back. He's got to find somebody. And that ball is deflected by the linebacker, Larry Grantham, number 60. Intended for Jimmy Orr, and that's the last shot for the Baltimore Colts as the Jets will take it.
So you draw back. Got it.
Had it up, you got it. I believe we were sitting.
The Jets sitting on top here. One of the great upsets of all time in professional sports. Matt Snell hanging onto that ball here on 2nd down. The clock running away. And they give it to Snell again. He's just trying to hold on. Snell has been the big man for the Jets today. He's run for over 100 yards. He's blocked and pass protected.
Well, I'd like to think that we weren't overconfident, but we were, I think, a 17-point favorite going into the ball game. Had just come off of a very impressive win against Cleveland in the championship game that put us into that ball game. So, you know, perhaps they were overconfident. I'd like to think as a coach that I didn't let that happen. I tried to explain all these things to the players all week long, and to put the focus on the game, and to make them realize that Namath was a pretty good quarterback that had been with the Jets for 4 years, and we had Earl Morrall that had been with us for 4 months that had taken over when Unitas got hurt. So, you know, they had a lot of things going for them in that ball game that people didn't realize, and you know, they won the football game, and there wasn't any doubt about that. And I just wasn't very happy about our performance.
30 times for 121 yards. So it's punt formation for the Jets. Baltimore pours it. He just got it away. Kick is coming to Timmy Brown. Trying to get to that sideline. He runs it out of bounds. on the 34-yard line of Baltimore. 8 seconds to play. 8 seconds. Johnny Unitas. Unitas throws to Richardson. Incomplete. And probably one more play here. 4 seconds to go. Again, that ball is caught, but this game is over. The New York Jets are the world champions in a stunning upset. They have beaten the Colts handily here today. There's Shula going over. You know how he must feel. They shut out the Colts until the last 3 minutes and 19 seconds of the game. And the AFL has scored its first Super Bowl victory. We'll be going to the Jets locker room to talk to the players who engineered this unbelievable upset.
How about Richardson? You and Richardson?
He's a good receiver. Yeah. He's a good receiver. Real good ball.
When I got up there, I guess they thought that I was going to say something negative about Pete Rozelle, about the National Football League, because I felt as if I was exiled or blackballed out of the National Football League.
What are you going to do with the money, John?
I don't know. Money's not important, you know. It's the win. We're the world champs, you know. That's the only important thing.
But I just wanted to thank the president of the American Football League. I wanted to thank the Baltimore Colts and a couple of guys that nobody ever mentions. You know, Weeb Ewbank, I thought, did a great job.
Well, we're very happy that we won. We think that we beat a fine football team today. I'm quite proud of our football team.
Congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
You know, that heat was pretty humid out there, and we felt like we took it to them. We stayed after them so we could get the job done, and I'm just grateful we were able to do it. It's a great moment for the American Football League. I mean that.
I don't remember much about the locker room, except I remember finding the quietest spot. And then Frank Ramus, our media director, said, Joe, the guys, the news guys, want to talk to you. So what do you mean, no? Come on. They want to talk about the game, you know. Nah, they didn't pick us. They didn't like us. They didn't give us a chance. I'm not going to talk to them. I was doing one of those numbers.
Is this a win for outspoken people?
I don't know about that. I know it's a hell of a loss for those folks who picked it the other way.
You may be watching one of sports' greatest upsets in history. And some unhappiness right now. All alone is Jimmy Orr.
It was embarrassing for me to go out to the Pro Bowl after that. And man, did I get the strawberries. I mean, I'm telling you, oh, Matty, you let the league down, you did this and did that. We were the first team to lose to the AFL.
I tell you, it was a party in New York for about a month. Everywhere I went, I stayed in New York. I didn't come back home to Philly until about a month after the Super Bowl game was over. People were so happy and so proud of the New York Jets as if they were a part of our team, and they were.
Ironically, while the New York Jets never returned to the Super Bowl, the Baltimore Colts did. But other than Jim O'Brien's last-second field goal, there was nothing memorable about Super Bowl V. Don Shula was not there. The loss to the Jets hastened his departure to Miami. His NFL record 328 wins eased the pain, but never erased the memory of Super Bowl III.
You know, that's the game that I still hear a lot about. I don't think you can ever take away the disappointment. That'll always be there. You know, we were favored. We didn't win the football game. We had a chance to win it. We didn't win. They won. I wish we'd have won that Super Bowl III. If there's any one regret, because that's the game that's probably talked about more than any other loss that I've been associated with.
But Shula's loss was the NFL's gain.
I think the game certainly legitimized the Super Bowl as a very special event. And so the game finally grew into this great corporate party and national celebration every season.
The Super Bowl is more than spectacle.
It is our new national pastime, a glorious game.
But I got news for you. We're going to win the game. I guarantee. Guarantee.
As I had it on last time. That's right. Ball away. I had a 60-yard rip on.
I never dreamed about Super Bowl III being reflected upon so much by so many, certainly. I didn't even think about leaving a mark and any of that kind of thing. How could I? You know, that's like looking in a crystal ball and saying what it's going to be like. I never thought the Triborough Bridge would be more than 25 cents to cross either, and until I paid $3 and something.
Yes, Super Bowl III did change the NFL, but the game should be recognized as an entity unto itself, for it's the ultimate example of why the players and not the prognosticators always have the final say. And it remains a source of inspiration for anybody who's ever been told it couldn't be done. There have been better football games, but Super Bowl III is one of the very few that truly deserve to be called a classic.
Oh, it was great.
This has been a presentation of the NFL Network.